Okay, so check this out. One of your spirit ashes can actually ride a wolf. There we go. Now you've got yourself a wolfback archer. Although she is prone to getting stuck in the wall. Okay, so here are some more hidden gameplay mechanics in Elden Ring. All kinds of cool stuff the game doesn't tell you about. Just what is it trying to hide? We'll start with a unique spirit ash. This is Latenna the Albinauric. You can pick this up in Lakeside Crystal Cave, which is south of the Liurnia of the Lakes. Now, this spirit ash is kind of special because it's the only one with this interaction. When Latenna the Albinauric is fighting a direwolf, and it has to be a direwolf, not a puny regular wolf, she'll hop on top of it, using it as a mount. The reason she does this is hinted at in the description, which mentions her losing her beloved wolf companion. So now she just climbs up on any dire wolf that comes her way. They don't seem to mind though, really. If you want to try this yourself, head to the Karaya Manor upper level Site of Grace, where you'll find 2 dire wolves who cannot wait for a new friend. Next up in our list of secret gameplay mechanics, this is a way to regain your stamina much faster. Instead of waiting for the green bar to slowly fill up, you can quicken the process by crouching. So tap the crouch button and you'll get a chunk of stamina back, then tap it again and see we've basically regained the entire meter. Pretty good. So for comparison, here's how long it usually takes to get your stamina back, during which time you can only jog around like a common slow man. But with this crouch method, you can now sprint much more. Helpful for getting away from all those bad flowers. Another mechanic that's secret, or at the very least hidden very well, is the grab. This is demonstrated by Reddit user Eliminate. When using the spell Inescapable Frenzy, you can grab enemies and unleash a burst of unrefined craziness right into their eye sockets. A bit like watching Fox News. This only works on humanoid enemies, and you do have to be pretty close to pull it off, but when you do, oh man, it's crazy. Next up, here's a way to access your spells way faster, and here's how you do it. Rather than pressing up on the D-pad to scroll through your spells, you can instead hold up to go right to the first spell in your list. When you see the red glow, this means you've skipped right to the top, which in this case is our Glintstone Pebble spell. This saves time if you've got loads of spells in your loadout. And it's not just spells, but items as well, so there's no need to scroll through each item in your list. Hold the D-pad down and you'll go right to the top of the pile. Oh, Elden Ring, you've got so many secrets. Alright, so you know about illusionary walls, there are also illusionary floors. These floors are completely invisible, and the only way you'll know about them is if you chuck down a rainbow stone. If it lands, it's safe to drop. Usually you'll find something good along the way, like a glovewort. Everybody loves gloveworts. This invisible floor is located near the hidden path to the Haligtree Site of Grace. Of course, if you play online, there's also another way to locate hidden floors, which is messages and bloodstains. But I doubt players have found every hidden floor in the game, so you might as well jump off every ledge you see. Star Scourge Radahn. He's buffed, he's nerfed, he's buffed, he's nerfed. Who cares? There's an easy way to defeat him, whatever build of the game you're playing, as shown off by user Homegrown Crown. All you have to do is, when he launches himself up into the sky, run over to the edge of the map. Stand right on the edge by the water, and when he crashes down, he'll miss the ground entirely and plunge directly into the water, which is itself a sort of ground. Liquid ground. Radahn 0, buoyancy 1. Great joke. This hidden mechanic here is one that's going to save you a whole lot of time when it comes to using runes. Instead of selecting each one and crushing them between your hands to reveal the runey goodness inside, which takes ages when you've got a few to get through anyway, there's a quicker way. Sell them all to the blacksmith and you'll get the same amount of runes without having to sit through the animations. As a plus, the blacksmith tells you the value of each rune, which eliminates all the guesswork. Thank you, blacksmith. Here's a little tip with the Sentry's Torch. The Sentry's Torch is a weapon that reveals invisible enemies when you hold it. Or so you are led to believe. You don't have to be holding it at all. You can put it on your back by one-handing your other weapon and the effects remain. So this guy here would be totally invisible if it wasn't for the torch on my back. Here's another example. So this is in Ordina Liturgical Town. And we'll put the torch back in our inventory and the guy disappears. So we whip it back out again and he sees us and is chasing us. I mean, it is a big glowing fire stick after all. The enemies are invisible, they're not blind. So not only does the Sentry's Torch still work while it's on your back, but it's actually better to keep it there permanently, since it draws way less attention when you're not waving it around. The next hidden mechanic shows just how versatile Elden Ring's character builder is. Reddit user Feeding Locus is playing the entire game using nothing but a shield, able to bounce projectiles right back at enemies. The shield they're doing this with is the Tree Great Shield. You can get this yourself by killing the 2 tree sentinels on the stairs of the Altis Plateau, leading into the capital. Alternatively, if you want another really good shield for a shield only build, get the Eclipse Crest Great Shield. This is outside the Black Knife Catacombs. Blocks physical attacks well, it blocks basically 50% of everything else well as well, and adds 50 to all your resistances. It's also farmable, so you can dual wield them. Speaking of builds, here's a way you can get back both health and FP on every kill. I really like this one. You'll need 2 swords. The first is the Blasphemous Blade. Blasphemous Blade. You get this by defeating Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy in Volcano Manor. The Ash of War of the Blasphemous Blade steals HP from enemies. The second weapon is the Sword of Milos, which you get from the Dung Eater. This sword steals FP. It's a passive effect, so you don't have to do anything, it just does it when you kill an enemy. So if you dual wield these 2 swords together, you'll be getting health and FP back during fights. There are probably ways to buff these effects even more, so let me know in the comments if you've found any ways to get more out of these swords. But here's a little clip of me using these swords anyway. The regen isn't huge on singular enemies, but if you killed a mob with these, you'll get loads back. At least this much. Okay, here's a little tip that's going to help when you summon. You can press LB to see what areas are attracting players. So if you can't see any players around you, you're probably gonna be waiting a while for a summon, even if you're at a stake of Marika and you kind of feel like there should be more players around you. So go into the map and press LB to show multiplayer status. Now this isn't exactly a hidden mechanic since they literally do tell you right in the menu, but I have to admit it took me a while until I discovered this. But it shows you good areas you're likely to be able to summon help in, and also good PvP spots. Popular destinations include Raya Lucaria Academy Main Gates and Lindell Royal Capital. Continuing on the theme of things I missed in the menus, you can play while you have the menu up. Again, they do tell you this, but you can't be expected to read everything. What is this, a book? If you want to do this, just click the right stick in while you're in the menu. The right side of the menu will disappear and you can go and continue your adventures. Although you can't fight or talk to anyone or pick up any items unless you close the menu. The next mechanic we need to talk about is the Stagger mechanic. You know, when you deal enough damage to an enemy and they have a brief rest while they think about their life choices, at which point you can trigger a special attack. Well, you don't want to do that on a boss if you're playing with people, because you'll do far more damage if the 3 of you just team up and do standard attacks. If one person does a special attack, then they'll lock the boss into an animation and it can't be interrupted, meaning other players can't damage them. Standard attacks are less cool, but they do more damage to the boss when there are 3 of you. Next up, the game doesn't tell you you can be a naked archer. I mean, the game doesn't tell you you can't be a naked archer, so that's why we like the game. Reddit user EdV Britannia is using the black bow, which lets you do jumping and sprinting shots. These are more likely to result in headshots, which have increased damage and can also stun your enemies. In terms of charms, the main 2 are the Arrow Sting Talisman, which adds plus 10% damage, and the Warrior Jar Shard to up the damage of the barrage shots. You could also use the Blue Dancer Charm, which ups your damage as long as your equipped weight is low, which is why the character is naked. Craft colourful arrows using rainbow stones, hit your opponents with all kinds of different arrows like fire and sleep ones, and then dance on their grave. A very cool build that. The last character build that it's not immediately obvious you can even make is this one by Slob the Goblin. They've got their poise stats so high, it's almost impossible to interrupt them. Slob the Goblin uses this to their advantage by unleashing Horalu's Earthshaker, Ash of War, and sending enemies flying. Even if your opponent gets off a few attacks, it's no problem thanks to the high poise, meaning you won't get staggered. As well as the poise, you'll need loads of health to do this, and loads of endurance too, so you can wear the heaviest armor. Here the player has on the pumpkin helm and Lionel's armor, which give you loads of protection and loads of poise. To get Hoaraloo's Earthshaker Ash of War, you have to defeat the Hoaraloo boss, who's found in Lindell, Ashen Capital. Also, you could use the Raw Medallion, Shard of Alexander, and Highland Axe's passive buff to get a total of 25% extra damage on your Ash of War. Of course, if your opponent was smart, they could avoid all of this by simply jumping. Alright, and one final mechanic, Sights of Grace don't show up through transparent items. The flame just disappears. Look through the wing of Astal, no flame. Look through the jellyfish shield, reduce flame. And yes, I am running out of hidden mechanics to talk about, so I'm just going to end it here. So those were a few hidden mechanics in Elden Ring. If you've found any that I didn't mention in the video, feel free to let me know in the comments. And for more Elden Ring videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. See you later.